looking at data entering techniques. So data entry is one of the crucial aspects of data analysis. By the end of this lesson, you should understand proper data entering practices. You should learn accurate typing techniques. You should avoid common spreadsheet data entry mistakes. You should be able to improve typing efficiency, and you should be able to organize spreadsheets data properly, and you should be able to confidently enter clean and structured data in spreadsheets. What is data entry? Data entry is the process of entering information into a computer system or spreadsheet. So the process of you entering data, typing something into your computer is data entry. Whenever you type names, you enter scores, you record salaries, you input sales figures or fill spreadsheets, what you are doing is data entry. Let's look at real life examples. That's real life examples of data entering. The first one is schools entering their students' score. That's an example of data entry. Another one is bank recording their transactions. That is another example of data entry. Church recording attendance, and hospital recording patient information. Supermarkets recording the number of sales that they were able to make. All these are examples of data entry. Let's look at the concept of wrong data entering. Now, when data is entered wrongly, calculations become wrong. It affects your calculation. Your reports, by the time you are giving reports of that data, it will be extremely wrong. Why? Because the data was not entered correctly. So the moment data is entered wrongly, the whole of the activities is affected. So the next thing is decision becomes poor. So the decisions you make when your data is entered wrongly is a poor decision. You can't make correct decisions. Why? Because your data were not properly entered, and this will affect your decision making. So therefore, accurate data entry is very, very, very important. So let's look at it. Proper data entry practices. Let's look at some practices, some proper data entry practices. Number one is you enter data consistently. So consistent data entering matters. What is consistency? Consistency means entering data using the same format. So if you are going to enter mail, for example, if you are going to enter mail, you don't use this is a representation of mail, this is a representation of mail, this is a representation of mail, this is also a representation of mail. It means you can enter mail in four different ways. Now, these four different ways to which you can enter mail, and there are other ways. Some persons can even decide to put small letter, capital letter, small letter, capital letter. In your data collection, you will get people that will just want to just scatter the whole thing by just imputing data in an unreasonable way. So now, if you have all of this in a particular column of sex, so the column heading is sex, then you have all of this as a response to mean male. By the time you are analyzing your data, it will not give you a corresponding, like you will not have a consistent result. Why? Because if you filter, for example, and you say filter for me male, this one, you filter this one, by the time you filter it, all of these other ones will not show as part of it. So if you use that as a count for number of male, it means you are only counting the number of male that are in capital letter, and then you are forgetting about these ones. So it means that when you are entering your data, you have to follow a consistency, so that when we call for that data, it will respond to you with that consistency that has been followed. So when you do not consistently enter data, it causes filtering problem, just like I said earlier. It causes reporting error, and it causes analysis mistakes. Another one is avoid empty cells. Empty cells may confuse analysis. It may affect formulas. and it may create incomplete reports. Yes, when your cell is empty, it doesn't give a good report of your data. Why? For example, if you have list of cells, maybe you started from column 2 to column 6, and then there is a point there that is empty. This means that by the time you are reading it, you will read it as you have 5 data entered, whereas it is 4 because one column does not have a value. So for example, if you want to count your data, you can end up counting 5 instead of 4. In the place of addition, when you tell your spreadsheet to add, if there is an empty row, spreadsheet will count it as a 0. It will count it as a 0. So in that case, when you are now looking for your average, it will be affected. Average of 6 numbers, maybe the total of the numbers is 30, the average is supposed to give you 5, but assuming that one of the row is empty, it means you have 5 data, the average was supposed to be 6, but because there is an empty cell, the average now becomes 5 because it's going to count it as 6 values instead of 5 values. So empty cells may confuse analysis, it may affect formulas, and it may create incomplete reports. If data is unavailable, just use NA, which means non-available or not available or pending, instead of leaving the cell empty. So you can just input something there instead of leaving the cell empty. Now, proper data entering practices. Use clear headings. That's the first thing. Make sure your heading is very clear. Good heading is something that has a name like this: name, age, score. So anybody that is entering value knows that on this column I'm meant to enter name, and that person knows that on this column I'm meant to enter age. But if you just use heading like data 1, data 2, data 3, or you just decide to name it as A, B, C, you are not giving a clear heading because they don't know what type of data to enter into each places. Now, another thing is that you enter correct data types. You enter correct data types. So when you have a column for age, the text should remain. If it is text, it should remain as text. If it is number, it should remain as number. So if you have a column for age, you don't write it as 20, TWNTY. You write it as 20, 2 and 0. This means this is a number, why this is a string. If you want to add now, this string cannot add up for you. By the time you have somebody write 20, somebody write 21 in words, by the time you say let's add the number of age or find the average age, you can't use this to find the average age. So you have to enter a correct data type, which is numeric. We talked about qualitative and quantitative data. So this is the kind of data that goes for age. It is a discrete data and it has to be entered as 1. So always double check your work. Always review spellings, review numbers, review dates, calculation, and so on before saving your file. Exactly, most importantly, before submitting your documents. These are the things that companies looks at. If you don't properly check, you don't double check your work, there might be an hidden error that is somewhere, and that error can affect your decision. And by the time your decision is affected, every action that is taken based on that decision can also be affected. Professional data analysts always verify data at the stage of entering before further analysis. So at the stage of entering, you have to verify your data before any further analysis. For example, you are working with a hospital, and you are meant to take a record from a patient. So you're asking the patient, okay, what is your genotype? And the patient says, my genotype is AS. But when you are meant to enter, you entered AA. That is a wrong entry. You've created error. You've created error for that patient's genotype. It means any further decision that the hospital will be taking on that patient, they will be taking the genotype they will be taking the decision based on the genotype you entered, which is the wrong one. This is why at the stage of data entering, every data entry specialist has to be very, very careful, and you have to double check it before going for any further analysis. Now, the next thing is typing efficiency techniques. Typing efficiency means entering data quickly and accurately. It means entering data quickly and accurately. So it has to be quick and it has to be accurate. Good typing helps us to save time. It helps us to reduce mistake. It helps us to improve productivity, and it helps us to complete our work faster. So when you can type, when you have good typing, it helps you to do when you have good typing, it helps you to save time, it helps you to reduce mistakes, it helps you to improve productivity, and it helps you to complete your work faster. Now, for effective typing, here are some good typing techniques that you should put together while typing for effective typing. Number one, focus on accuracy first. Before speed, accuracy is very, very, very important. Truly, speed and accuracy brings about effectiveness. But before you could say you are, the first thing to focus on between speed and accuracy is accuracy. When you become accurate over time, then speed is now an advantage. But if you are not accurate and you are being fast, you just have speed, you will not still amount to anything. Another thing is avoid rushing. There is nowhere you are rushing to. Make sure your typings are correct. That is most important than how soon you finish up your typing. The next thing is use both hands while typing. Yes, when you are typing on your system, you use both hands while typing. Practice regularly and watch spellings carefully. When using your tab key, when you have your tab key, if let's assume you write an information here, name, if you press tab, it moves it to the next space on the same row. So when you enter a value here on C11, tab will move it to D11, tab will move it to E11. That's what tab does. Why if it is enter key is meant to move it downward. So when you press the enter key, it moves it on the same column. It's the next line on the same column. But when you use the tab key, it moves it on the same row. So using tab and enter key makes data entering faster, easier, and more professional. Organizing your data properly. So for you to organize your data properly, the first thing is that you keep related data together. For example, name, age, department, and score. By the time you are entering the data, all the data in each row, they are related to each other. For example, name, age, department, and score. This same person in question here also attends church. This same person in question here also has probably a state of origin. Now, state of origin is not related to your school assessment for you to calculate your score and all of these things. Your state of origin is not really needed, except maybe there is any further analysis that we want to perform. Maybe we want to look at best performance based on states. Then at that you can now introduce it. But if it's not necessary, then there is no point introducing data that is not relevant or related. So use one record per row. Each row should represent one complete record. For example, name, age, department, statistics. By the time you look at it, everything here belongs to John. Everything here belongs to Sarah. Everything here belongs to Michael. You don't have to write it scattered. You can easily follow up your table. So do not mix different tables together. Separate attendance record, salary records, score records into different tables or sheets. So you should be able to separate the records. For example, if you want to take records, you are taking salary records in a school. For example, you are taking records of salary and financial payments, you are taking record of student assessment. You don't put them together. They are two different aspects. So what do? You separate attendance from salary from score. You can have it as separate sheets on the same workbook. Then format your data neatly. Good formatting helps readability, professionalism, and analysis quality. So when your data is properly formatted, it helps you to become professional, it helps your data to be readable, and it helps your analysis to be very, very quality. Now, the following represents how data entry is used in various spheres. Looking at it, school. In school, data entry is used in entering scores, attendance, and student records. In banks, data entry is used for customer details, transaction records, and account balances. In hospitals, data entry is used for patient records, medical history, and appointment schedules. In businesses, data entry is used in entering sales record, inventory, customer information. Good data analysis begins with clean and accurate data entry.